Tonight on 24, U.S. President announces Iran agreement signed.
And the main thing is that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. They fully agreed to that.
Trump, Hormuz Strait reopens, Iran's nuclear program restricted. Strong reaction in Israel to the agreement between Tehran and Washington. Israel announced its forces would remain in southern Lebanon and continue attacks in that country. Several parliament members are trying to file a complaint against Kalibaf with Article 90 Commission. At the same time, reformist figures supported the Memorandum of Understanding with the U.S. From Iran International Studio, this is 24 with Fardad Farahzad. Viewers of Iran International in Iran and around the world, hello and good evening. An hour ago, the U.S. President announced that the agreement with Iran has been fully signed, and Iran will not obtain nuclear weapons. Donald Trump, who has gone to France to attend the G7 summit, also said that the Strait of Hormuz will be fully open by Friday. Trump also said that strong oversight and control against Iran will be in place. He said the text of the agreement reached with Iran will be released after the official signing ceremony on Friday, and he might also be present at the signing ceremony.
I'm very happy to
I'm very happy to announce the agreement has been fully signed and the strait is already partially open even now. Teams are diligently searching for dangerous mines, some found, but ships are now leaving. From this Friday, the critical route will be fully open. We've gotten along well with Iran's new leadership. This is a truly different set of leaders. The first two groups left without progress, but this third group proved very smart and strong negotiators. Ultimately, we reached a pivotal agreement. I felt bad we had to conduct offensive attacks again 2 nights ago. I was even thinking about a third attack, but we reached an agreement before that. I think right now, very good things are going to happen in the Middle East. Oil prices are sharply decreasing, and the stock market is going up like a rocket, and it hit a record today. Regarding oil, too, we've entered the low price range. We haven't quite reached previous level yet, but we are getting closer. The main point is that Iran will never obtain nuclear weapons. They fully agreed with this, along with strong oversight powers.
At the same time, the U.S. Vice President also said that a $300 billion reconstruction fund has been envisioned within the framework of the agreement with Iran, although this fund won't be financed by the U.S. and there's no immediate access to it. J.D. Vance had also previously said that a 2-stage verification mechanism will be implemented in this agreement, and there are still important details remaining that need to be finalized. Our correspondent, Marzia Hosseini, has joined us from Congress. Marzia, Mr. Trump has headed to Evian, France, to attend the G7 summit, and, well, at the last minute, just before this trip, he finally managed to reach an agreement, or at least a memorandum of understanding, with the Islamic Republic, after a long period of negotiations. But how is this initial understanding being received in Washington, D.C., among its supporters and opponents?
In the first stage, it's seen as the biggest birthday gift the Islamic Republic could give Trump, and Trump seems very pleased. But the interpretations here in Washington are that, at the current stage, it's true that the Islamic Republic and the U.S. have, in fact, finally reached a historic memorandum of understanding. But the issues that have been resolved are only 3: ending the war, reopening the Strait of Hormuz, and a framework for dialogue. I mean, even more than being an understanding, the press is saying it's a framework for an understanding. The list of issues that haven't been resolved yet is much, much longer. The issue of Iran's nuclear files still hasn't been resolved, neither regarding the removal of enriched uranium, nor regarding the period of suspension of the Islamic Republic's enrichment program. The financial file still hasn't been resolved. Regarding the lifting of sanctions, regarding the amount of dollars the U.S. government is supposed to release for the Islamic Republic, and finally, and most importantly, the issue of Lebanon still hasn't been resolved. The American press asserts this conflict was Israel's war from the outset, not between the U.S. and Iran. A key party, even more critical than others, Israel, lacks its signature on the treaty or memorandum of understanding. This is notable despite the United States having signed it twice, with both Mr. Trump and Mr. J.D. Vance's signatures affixed. But the Israelis haven't announced a clear position yet, and according to the press, the Israelis have actually proven over the past 2 weeks how easily they can just walk away from these negotiations whenever they want. want. We know that Mr. Bagai has emphasized that the word Lebanon has been used 3 times in the text of this Memorandum of Understanding, and he stressed that the issue of Lebanon is an integral part of this memorandum. On the other hand, the Israelis have announced that they will not withdraw their military forces from southern Lebanon. Not only that, but now a report has been published stating that the U.S. will also not withdraw its military forces from the Middle East. Consequently, despite the signing of this Memorandum of Understanding, the status of the ceasefire is still unclear as to how far it will go. But an important point that exists is regarding the Islamic Republic's financial file. Mr. J.D. Vance gave an interview today that was a very important and interesting interview. The reporter asked him about how much money they're going to give the Islamic Republic. Mr. J.D. Vance emphasized, saying, "We will not give even $1 of American money to the Islamic Republic." This language is new, and it was interpreted to mean that they will probably give the Islamic Republic its own money back. In return, he also emphasized, saying, "We will create a reconstruction fund. The Arab countries of the region will provide the money for it, and if the Islamic Republic adheres to its commitments, it can use this money." J.D. Vance struggled to differentiate a new memorandum from the JCPOA, eventually stating, "Obama didn't bomb Iran before the JCPOA, but, well, we bombed them first." This reveals a contrasting pre-negotiation context and diplomatic approach. And this was the only point raised by Vance's remarks. The press heavily criticized him, saying, "It's true that Obama didn't bomb for signing such an agreement, although, well, it also didn't lead to the killing of several thousand people." This is a claim that the New York Post, as one of Trump's critics, has put forward.
Thank you, Marzia Hosseini from the U.S. Congress. Negotiations between the U.S. and the Islamic Republic are nearing final stages, with ongoing discussions about agreement terms and halting hostilities in Lebanon. Tensions on the Lebanese front remain high. Israel insists it will not withdraw forces from southern Lebanon. Lebanese media reported continued Israeli drone attacks on the village of Tibnin in the south. Meanwhile, Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz stated that the country's forces will remain in buffer zones in Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza, and he has conveyed this to American officials. Other Israeli officials, while rejecting any understanding with Tehran, emphasized the continuation of a pressure, policy, and even readiness for independent action against Iran. In this context, Israel's national security minister said that the country is not party to any understanding between the U.S. and the Islamic Republic, and stressed that nothing less than the dismantling of Hezbollah should be accepted. On the other hand, former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, criticizing Netanyahu, said he has failed to translate Israel's military achievements into lasting security results, and accused the Netanyahu government of dragging Israel into attritional and fruitless wars. Arash Aramesh, a legal scholar and national security expert, has joined us. Mr. Aramesh, a part of this equation that seems to have been overlooked is naturally Israel itself. How much do you think Washington, Mr. Trump, can use this initial memorandum of understanding to pressure Mr. Netanyahu and the Israeli government to follow the same path he is taking?
I doubt Israel will go along with it. I saw a cartoon today in a publication that showed Mr. Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, like they were hanging him, and on the other side, they were hanging Netanyahu too. He was really shocked, and then Zelensky turns to Netanyahu and says, "Is this your first time Trump's abandoned you? Looks like you haven't gotten used to this yet." Israel isn't used to it, but, well, we finally see the first president who so directly breaks this post-World War II tradition, which started with President Truman, and completely abandons a democratic ally. Mr. Trump is more of an ally to the Persian Gulf Arabs than to Israel. He's more of an ally to dictatorships like China and North Korea in terms of friendship and sincerity and what he likes, than to European allies in the free world of the United States. This is really a treasure trove of danger. First point. Second point. I've always said Trump is a liar, but he's not just a liar, he's a fabricator. This name needs exaggeration here. He by far comes and lies, and now he's telling another lie. They've released $26 billion so far, money that the Islamic Republic won't even spend a bit of for the people's welfare. This will be for bribing those domestic thugs and foreign terrorists. The regime will become much stronger by far. It won't have such a strong economy. I doubt they'll want to come to terms with the United States and let the US open an embassy. And this will be in Mr. Trump's hands. He'll even roll out the red carpet for this Mr. Mujtaba. And this goes back to the statements Trump made. At the height of the massacre of the Iranian people by the Islamic Republic, he said, "We're standing behind you. Come on, don't be afraid. The United States is on its way. I am here." All of that was a complete lie. And now he's saying that regime change was never, ever in his hands. It wasn't within his scope of work. But this isn't just a loss for the Iranian people. It's also a loss for the United States. The United States could have continued attacks on the Islamic Republic and gone to the brink of overthrowing them. This wasn't impossible. It wasn't impossible to solve a really big problem for itself in the region and then be able to put all its worries and focus on what the future of international exchanges, struggles, and competitions is, and that whole US and China thing. But it didn't, and this problem, this tumor, this big affliction in the Middle East, named the Islamic Republic, is still there. It's weakened a bit, yeah. But this idea some people have that the Islamic Republic isn't what it used to be, and I don't know, its nature isn't there anymore. No, the Islamic Republic is still here. Ghalibaf and Khamenei and those same savages who used to rule are still here. And actually, their claws and teeth have gotten sharper for the people. When you've, killed Khamenei's father, and his son, and his brother, and his wife, and his brother-in-law, I don't know, his wife's brother, everyone, then you expect Mojtaba Khamenei to, for example, even show mercy to the people. This is what's wrong. But yeah, Mr. Trump did a very good job. He killed Khamenei, he destroyed the leader's office, he annihilated many IRGC leaders. But keep going. The problem is right here, Mr. Farzad. Mr. Trump has a history of doing this. If something doesn't put direct money in his own pocket, he'll go on for 2 or 3 months, continue it, and then he'll forget about it. Do you remember the first example? What happened to that Ministry of Optimization, the Department of Government Efficiency? It was for 2 or 3 months. They closed down a few government agencies, made some people jobless, then some people went back to work again. What happened? It ended after 2 or 3 months. The crisis they created wasn't even solved. What happened to the border wall with Mexico? He said, "I want to come and build a wall from this side to that side." Out of 1,000-something miles, he built a few hundred miles, even a few tens of miles. Then Mr. Trump just gave up on it. I don't know. What happened to the tariffs and trade wars? He wanted to fight China and do stuff against China, but he continued that for a few months too. Then he forgot again. He used to say big things. "I want to confront North Korea." What happened to that? He did the same thing with that. I mean, you look at each and every one of these promises he made about wanting to, completely overhaul and reform healthcare or health and medical services with these things. That too was talk for a few weeks, front page headlines, editorials, and all that. And that too was completely forgotten. I'm just saying, this is the type of person he is. When someone with 1,001 criticisms against the Democrats, with 1,000 criticisms against the classic Republicans, but this type of person who generally has no history of governing, he hasn't. He's someone who was, convicted on 37 counts. He's not just an accused anymore. He's a criminal. And he comes, and because the opposing side puts forward a very weak, disastrous candidate like Miss Kamala Harris, Mr. Trump gets reelected. This is regarding foreign policy. Now, look at our allies. Western Europe is unhappy with the United States. Israel is unhappy with Mr. Trump. Ukraine is unhappy with Mr. Trump. Democratic countries, those that have democratic values, not communist left-wing or fascist right-wing values, each and every one of them is unhappy with Mr. Trump. But he flatters flatters Putin, flatters Kim, and little by little, he'll eventually flatter Mr. Mujtaba too, which this is a disaster. Now, the question is, those who even to this day refer to him as Uncle Trump or President of Hearts or President of Souls, do they have enough honesty and political integrity with themselves to say, look, he's made a mistake, and what Mr. Trump is doing right now is a pure mistake, and his consequences will be clear to the people of Iran, and its consequences will be clear to the people of the United States. When Biden was doing this, when Mr. Obama was doing this, when the Democrats were doing this, a lot of Democrats, a lot of independents, they came and made these criticisms. I have consistently argued Biden's approach is a mistake. Force is necessary against the Islamic Republic. Where are those who daily championed Mr. Trump's grand plans, hailing him as a great man, a modern Cyrus II? Their absence from this crucial debate is striking.
Thank you, Irash Aramesh, lawyer and national security expert. Esmail Baghai, spokesperson for the Islamic Republic's foreign ministry, has said that the Memorandum of Understanding signing program has not yet been finalized, and Islamic Republic officials intend to travel to several regional countries before Geneva. Baghai has considered the end of the war in Lebanon an inseparable part of the ceasefire agreement, and has said that Lebanon's name has been repeated 3 times in the agreement.
In this Memorandum of Understanding, the word Lebanon has been used 3 times, specifically emphasizing its critical role. This demands the cessation of hostilities on all fronts, including Lebanon, alongside unwavering respect for its sovereignty and territorial integrity. This phrasing is, I believe, entirely clear regarding what any understanding in this context must include.
Several Iranian parliament members plan to file a complaint against Mohammad Bakr Ghalibaf with the Article 90 Commission. MP Abul Fazl Abu Turabi claims Ghalibaf intentionally obstructs parliamentary sessions to prevent discussion of a memorandum of understanding with America. Mohammed Nabian from the National Security Commission also highlighted contradictions in the MOU's text, urging its detailed report be publicly presented. This move reflects growing parliamentary opposition to Ghalibaf's actions and the controversial U.S. agreement. Meanwhile, some reformist figures, including Mohammad Khatami, head of the reformist government, and Mohammad Javad Zarif, former foreign minister, welcomed the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding and called it a historic victory. Omid Memorian, a respected political analyst from the Dawn Institute based in Detroit, Michigan, has joined us. Mr. Memorian, could you give us a clear picture of where the evolving political situation is headed right now on the verge of signing this significant memorandum between Iran and America? Have the reformists found renewed momentum again? Are key factions like Ghalibaf moving more towards the reformists' positions? What will happen to the more hardline extremist opponents? What's going on inside that enduring structure of the Islamic Republic?
Look, the situation is very complex for the Islamic Republic's establishment because in previous stages, in earlier years, when very difficult and challenging decisions were being made, there was a leader in Iran who, was charismatic, had a lot of power, had extensive control over various power institutions, had the military and political groups, and because of that, they could get through the shocks resulting from very tough decisions, including Resolution 598, by virtue of which the Iran-Iraq War ended, or the 2015 nuclear deal. The first was during Khomeini's time, the second was during Khamenei's time, and they were able to manage the protests despite the objections that were being raised, or, the opposition that was happening after the 2015 nuclear deal. But now, we're facing a situation where definitely a part of the establishment, even the hardliners, even the Revolutionary Guard, who, were basically calling the shots during this recent war, they've been convinced that anyway, continuing the path they were on with America can practically reach a point of no return, and the government just doesn't have the ability or capacity to want to keep this war going for very, very long. Hardline groups, recently vocal in the streets, assert significant leverage, including potential control over the vital Strait of Hormuz. They strongly advocate continuing the war, demanding the United States concede to all their political desires. These groups are exploiting the current situation to further their own agenda, seeking full capitulation from the U.S. Given that it's not clear whether Mojtaba Khamenei is there, whether there's a leadership who holds the main power in Iran, various groups are trying to, in fact, advance their own agenda in this period where there's a power vacuum. So now, in my opinion, we're in a situation where we might face a purge at the top of power in the coming weeks. We might have a very serious crackdown at the top echelons of power. Or anyway, these rifts might widen to some extent and cause a lot of bloodshed at the top of the establishment.
It is said that this electronic memorandum of understanding has been signed at this juncture by both Mr. Vance and President Trump. Mr. Trump has even spoken of the possibility that he might go to Geneva on Friday. One can guess that probably Mojtaba Khamenei won't go to Geneva. If anyone goes at the highest rank, it was Mohammad Bakr Ghalibaf, and Ghalibaf also signed this very electronic memorandum on the Iranian side. Could this be a new chapter for Ghalibaf to seize power in Iran, becoming something like Iran's Pervez Musharraf?
Look, it depends on the calculation system of the Islamic Republic officials, on Ghalibaf's calculation system, and how much he can, anyway, use this post-war period to change direction in domestic and foreign policy. The most important problem he will have is that the war era ended with the killing of Ali Khamenei, many military commanders, many political commanders. And from this perspective, going towards America and the economic openings, shaking hands with American officials, its cost can be very high. Although perhaps among the majority of people, many Iranians want that, coincidentally, after the war, the Islamic Republic actually makes a serious change of direction, that the government moves towards opening doors. And everyone knows that anyway, if there's going to be a serious opening, sanctions lifted, and serious developments in Iran in the economic and political spheres, then relations with America must improve. So it might have popular support, but at the top levels of power, among the military and the intelligence and security apparatus, it might face serious problems. We really don't know right now what the impact of this war has been on the government's higher institutions and what it has opened their eyes to. Because anyway, they might, say things in their propaganda machine about how we're going to continue the war. We'll do the work. But these apparatuses, they know anyway what their capabilities are, how many resources they have, how long this war could have continued, and if Iran is going to, over the coming months, coming years, remain vulnerable to Israel, wanting to have a few days of war every few months, and its military capabilities and anyway its facilities get targeted, then practically the Islamic Republic's sovereignty will seriously face problems. We'll have to see if this discussion they're having internally will lead to the government making a serious change in direction, or if no, these internal disputes and the delusions they have about power and superiority and these kinds of things will practically cause the more pragmatic and realistic group to, in fact, back down, and anyway, we'll go down a different path.
Thank you, Mide Memorian, political analyst at the Dawn Institute from Detroit, Michigan. The announcement of an agreement between the United States and the Islamic Republic has been met with widespread reactions from countries around the world. China's foreign ministry hopes that security and freedom of passage in the Strait of Hormuz will be established. Antonio Casa, president of the European Council, has also expressed hope that this agreement will lead to an end to the current costly war. Germany, the Netherlands, Austria, Sweden, Britain, and Ireland have also welcomed this agreement. Kaja Kallas, the EU's foreign policy chief, has also said that the European Union is ready to help achieve a lasting solution. Ms. Kallas has said that there will be no peace in the Middle East as long as Lebanon is on fire.
This news is very promising, and we truly hope it will be implemented on Friday. The critical Strait of Hormuz must remain open for global trade, and this war urgently needs to end. Therefore, we wholeheartedly welcome this action, hoping its positive impact will be lasting.
Simultaneously, Abbas Araghchi has spoken about the Memorandum of Understanding with the U.S. in separate calls with his counterparts in Saudi Arabia, Japan, Turkey, Iraq, and Egypt, and has emphasized the cessation of Israeli attacks on Lebanon. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, the UAE, and the Gulf Cooperation Council have also welcomed this Memorandum of Understanding and emphasized freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz and respect for the sovereignty of regional countries. Mohammed Ghaedi, lecturer in international relations at George Washington University, has joined us from the U.S. Capitol. Mr. Ghaedi, everyone, countries around the world, are welcoming it, but we still don't know many details. But one thing also seems clear. This isn't an agreement yet. It's a memorandum of understanding to reach a potential agreement in the next month or two. The status of Iran's enriched uranium is still unclear. The fate of the Strait of Hormuz after these 60 days is still unclear. The fate of proxy groups and many other questions are still unclear. How much do you really think this Memorandum of Understanding can lead to a comprehensive, meaningful agreement?
I seriously doubt that this Memorandum of Understanding will lead to a comprehensive and meaningful agreement. There are 3 or 4 major disagreements: the nuclear issue, which is supposed to be addressed, and the 60-day negotiations is one of the issues that can, in fact, delay or lead to the failure of this agreement, but its meaning won't necessarily be that Iran and the US will return to war again. The issue of the Strait of Hormuz is one of the issues that I think will create a lot of problems in the future, because a de facto reality has been established. and that de facto reality is that the Islamic Republic is controlling the strait. And probably in this Memorandum of Understanding, this will also be confirmed by the US. However, various countries, including the Europeans themselves, will probably have legal and political difficulties with this. And finally, the issue of Lebanon is a big Achilles heel that has already started showing its vulnerability, meaning Hezbollah announced that after this Memorandum of Understanding, it will not initiate an attack on Israel, but it wants Israel to withdraw from southern Lebanon. A few hours later, clashes between Hezbollah and Israel started again, and this could easily escalate to Beirut. The Islamic Republic has also made the threat that if Israel attacks Beirut, the Islamic Republic will attack northern Israel in response. All of this, it just shows how chaotic the situation is. What I can speak about with greater certainty is that this crucial Memorandum of Understanding will be signed on Friday. This development should bring some calm to global financial markets, particularly impacting oil prices and the broader stock market. Over the next 2 months, Iran, the US, and other parties will strive to find a viable solution, though I personally believe a comprehensive resolution remains highly challenging.
Thank you, Mohammed Gayati, IR lecturer at George Washington University, D.C. The G7 Leaders Summit in Avion, France, has begun, with the agreement between the United States and the Islamic Republic becoming the most important topic of this meeting. Western leaders are discussing the details of this understanding, the future of the Strait of Hormuz, and how to guarantee freedom of navigation in this strategic waterway. Our correspondent Ali Hassanpour has joined us from Berlin. Ali, even up to the last minute, we weren't really sure if a memorandum of understanding between Tehran and Washington would be signed on the eve of this trip or not. But now it seems that all members, not just the G7, but also other countries that have representatives there on the sidelines of this summit, are pleased with this initial understanding.
Exactly, Fardad. In this regard, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz notably emphasized, once again before his diplomatic trip, that the crucial Strait of Hormuz must be permanently open for international shipping without any restrictions whatsoever. He explicitly stated that Germany is prepared to actively participate with its allies and international partners in guaranteeing complete freedom of navigation in this vital waterway. This critical issue will be a primary topic of his forthcoming discussions with Donald Trump, along with influential European leaders and key regional countries, highlighting its global significance. In this same framework, 4 European G7 member countries, namely Germany, France, Britain, and Italy, also announced today in their joint statement that they are ready to participate in a purely defensive mission to ensure the security of the Strait of Hormuz. Emmanuel Macron, the French president, also emphasized that France, alongside its key international allies, is ready to act quickly and decisively if specific conditions are met. He even spoke of the possibility of deploying specialized French minesweeping vessels, which are crucial for ensuring safe passage and maritime security. He also announced that a formidable French aircraft carrier and its powerful accompanying battle group are already present in the region. If the agreement is signed, these substantial forces will be ready for immediate operations even within the next few days. At the same time, the issue of the potential presence of foreign forces in the vital Strait of Hormuz is still one of the core points of contention. While European countries are talking about their readiness to participate in securing international shipping in this critical waterway, the Islamic Republic has consistently declared its firm opposition to any foreign military presence. Tehran views such an external deployment as a threat to its security, unequivocally describing it as unacceptable. Another issue, let's briefly mention it, raised today on the sidelines of the summit is the sanctions issue. Von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission, emphasized that the EU will not lift sanctions without specific and verifiable changes in the behavior of the Islamic Republic. She said that the fundamental principle of sanctions is actually that real change in action must first be observed, and only then can we, talk about reducing or lifting sanctions.
Thanks to colleague Ali Hassanpour from Bahrain. Some Iran International viewers, reacting to the understanding between the US and the Iranian government, say that in this whole situation, the demands of the Iranian people haven't been considered. A number of them said that putting their hopes in Donald Trump, the US president, for change in Iran was a mistake from the start, and he, like other world leaders, prioritizes his country's interests. Farrokh Kanani, a sociology researcher from Frankfurt, and Arash Azizi, a history researcher and lecturer in humanities at Yale University from New York, are with us. Thank you to both of you. Ms. Kanani, in your opinion, was it a mistake for a significant part of the opposition to put all their eggs, or a lot of their eggs, in Mr. Trump's basket, hoping for the overthrow of the Islamic Republic?
Greetings to you. Look, I fundamentally think that the idea of, putting all your hopes and a comprehensive general hope in any foreign entity is generally not a good or political idea. However, in the situation that the Islamic Republic created for Iran under these circumstances, and especially after the January massacre, I think that the only solution that came to the mind of Iranian society, and naturally echoing the voice coming from Iran, those who were writing, we've done everything we could. There's nothing left for us to do except foreign help, at least so that some of the repressive force, its back of power, so to speak, would break. It was that something similar to what's known as R2P, or responsibility to protect, would actually, return to the international political dialect regarding Iran. Well, this isn't a bad idea. This is actually a human rights action to save a society that is being tortured by its own state or government or regime under, any kind of criminal behavior, whether it's genocide, whether it's actually crimes against humanity, and things like that. Or, for example, ethnic cleansing. These are actually examples of this issue. And, well, the Islamic Republic, according to what we've seen, we can almost definitively say that it has committed crimes against humanity. And actually, the massacre of innocent, defenseless people, among whom were women and children and such, actually people who never even thought maybe that a massacre could be this widespread when the population is so high, existed. So I think this idea fundamentally came from here, actually held for the people for suppressing actually the repressive forces, so that if a second uprising happens to reclaim Iran, the Islamic Republic's power of repression, in the way we saw in January, with an actually unprecedented brutality, I think actually it wouldn't be able to happen in the history of street massacres in Iran. But, well, fundamentally, it's like for many, this was interpreted as, we need a foreign force to come and overthrow the regime for us. And one scenario that emerged was, well, they'll come, they'll do everything for us, and actually they'll do our homework, they'll take our exams for us, and the grade will probably be a perfect 20, right? Well, this is a false hope for the political sphere, for the social sphere, and for those who don't realize that a foreign government, even if it has common interests with this idea, let's say, hey, it's better for them too if the Islamic Republic leaves. Yeah, but, well, there are some people within their own country whose interests must be a priority for them. Their public opinion must be a priority. And they might not even understand this idea of come and liberate Iran for us. I mean, this isn't a discourse that has buyers. This isn't a narrative that you, as the president of a country on another continent in that corner of the world, can sell to your people and have them accept it. From a human rights perspective, when you recount everything that has happened to the people of Iran over these 47, 48 years, they might say, well, okay, that's very painful. But they still won't understand why, actually, someone who actually maybe never had any connection to Iran's situation at all, and now this war is actually being funded with their tax money, should be happy about this. I mean, actually, foreign politicians naturally must prioritize their own country, just as you saw with us. When people shout in the streets, they talk about Iran, not somewhere else. I mean, for us too, naturally, the priority is Iran and human rights, which we are sure that if the Islamic Republic leaves, not only within Iran, but also in the countries of the region, things will finally return to their natural course.
Mr. Azizi, it's clear that conditions have changed a lot for everyone since before the war, for the US, for the Islamic Republic, for the opposition, for the people inside. And in some cases, it seems like a double-edged sword. After all, the Islamic Republic has taken a big hit from a military standpoint. Ms. Kanani says that maybe even their power to suppress in future protests won't be like in January. In your opinion, is the Islamic Republic now in a weaker position? Has the chance for a change of government or a change in the appearance of the government in Iran increased compared to the past? Or is it because they've endured this war and are now even signing an agreement with the U.S., making their position stronger than even before the war?
Look, let me start with this. Just assume it doesn't even matter what my opinion about the Islamic Republic is, or what yours is. When you get into discussions with a lot of experts and even economic specialists who just want to know what's going on in the world so they can make their investments, if you asked any serious person, if you gathered 100 Iranian experts and asked them, what's the probability that Donald Trump would come and overthrow the Islamic Republic by attacking Iran, I promise you 80-90% would say there's no such possibility. Those who came and told the people of Iran, which even Ms. Kanani still says now, it's interesting, like they say R2P. Those who promoted this idea that the US would come and change the Iranian government with a military attack, they lied to the people. I mean, they lied. No serious expert ever thought that. I've repeatedly questioned proponents of military action on how strikes against repressive forces would lead to the Islamic Republic's downfall. For instance, if the US and Israel hit checkpoints, by what mechanism would a government so reliant on these very security forces collapse? The how remains unanswered, highlighting a fundamental flaw in the strategy. No one who was serious. Look at the Brookings Institution. Look at all the different American think tanks. Look at those financial institutions. People who were publishing serious stuff. No one expected anything like that. On your very own show when I came on, I said, look, Mr. Trump is not a supporter of Mr. Pahlavi. He doesn't care one bit about him. He's not in favor of regime change. Mr. Trump is looking to work with someone within this government. How much abuse they hurled at me. How much they slandered me. Even though I was just speaking the truth. Many of the young people who were killed in Iran went into the streets with the hope that Mr. Trump was saying, I'm behind you. Mr. Pahlavi was saying, Trump is behind you. Message after message, he was saying, help is coming. They were lying. From the very beginning, there was absolutely no such possibility. Another lie that Ms. Kanani is still repeating, or rather, it's not really a lie. I apologize. It's a wrong interpretation. This whole story that we've tried all the paths, so the path is foreign intervention. The way for the Islamic Republic to fall was first and foremost one thing, forming a comprehensive national alternative from within. We practically killed ourselves these past few years, saying, look, Mr. Pahlavi, the rest of the opposition, come on, unite, put aside your differences. Build a national alternative. Try to create a broad coalition. Try to establish communication with forces within the government. Even former reformists are your enemies. Try to create a national alternative. They explicitly claimed a self-sufficient majority, and their support was evident. Mr. Pahlavi's theory of change, as understood by the US and Israeli governments, was fundamentally flawed. Its problem wasn't merely its inherent undesirability or the concept of foreign aid, but its complete lack of backing from the very beginning. This foundational absence of support made the theory nonsensical from the start. Consequently, I am not surprised by the events that unfolded. Regarding what you're saying about the government's position today, let me just say 2 more sentences and finish. You're saying today the government's position is stronger, or quote-unquote worse. Look, the government is still in power today. The only time the government is truly in danger is when you have a serious national coalition and alternative against it. Mr. Pahlavi, who for example doesn't even have 5 people on his payroll, isn't it? Even as a supporter of groups like the Iran Freedom Congress or the Republican opposition, our small organization with fewer than 20 members cannot seriously challenge the Islamic Republic.
Much more than 2 people, dear sir. I'd like to listen to you more, but we're also short on time. I want the discussion to continue. Ms. Kanani, Mr. Azizi, since he mentioned Prince Reza Pahlavi several times, let's be fair, he never said that he's waiting for America and Israel to change the Iranian government. But he had said that it seems the American president has provided some help, and in the final stage it will be the people who change the government. And he was making promises that the Islamic Republic was now on the verge of collapse, very weakened. Maybe I myself would come soon. Now, however, that the war has stopped and Mr. Trump is making an agreement, Mr. Pahlavi's rhetoric also seems to have changed. If there really is personal agency outside the context of the Israel-America war, well, we shouldn't really be seeing that right now from his leadership and other opposition who were saying that an American and Israeli attack is just help, and ultimately it's the people who have to overthrow the government. Well, the attack happened, and they dealt heavy blows. I don't know how else they could have hit the Islamic Republic harder than that. So now what? What's the plan now?
Let me give a short answer. Look, as you can see, we're also talking about America here and about an agreement at the end of the war, an agreement that's actually the start of talks about an interim agreement between two countries. However, the blame, well, it's usually falling on Prince Reza Pahlavi, as if Prince Reza Pahlavi is someone Trump takes orders from or Netanyahu takes orders from. This was throughout this whole atmosphere. When you talk about national alternative forces, Mr. Prince Reza Pahlavi announced this before. Your friends announced that he's allied with the IRGC, so his hands are in the people's blood. And they accused him of actually, in order to come to power in Iran's future, now allying with the current pillars of power who are suppressing the people, whose hands are in crime. What he's saying, that's exactly your point. However, when someone doesn't want to understand Mr. Azizi, there's nothing you can do about it. He was also saying exactly that if you are internal forces, you even have power, but your hands aren't stained with blood. You're just part of an organization that's working anyway. Whether it's a bank or actually an administrative body, you can continue your work in the future of Iran. Actually, this promise that nothing will happen to them has been given for years. You've been seeing at least 3 years of it in the media space. So this action has been taken.
Ms. Khan, this is about the past. My question is about the present. So now, what's the plan, really? These forces that were said could join if the government is overthrown. It was said that many of them have already contacted and are in touch, and it was also said that ultimately the people have to do this. But now we hear from him to stay put. It might take a long time. It might become drawn out. What action do you, the other opposition, expect from him now? In the vacuum of American and Israeli military operations, are there no other options on the ground? Do calls to action and activities just stop?
Look, there definitely are, and there should be. If you see it's not happening this very week, it's because we still don't really know which way this political atmosphere is heading. Actually, we haven't reached the end, Mr. Farzad. At least in my opinion. We're just now hearing about an agreement that's supposed to be signed this week for a series of talks to take place. Apparently, this agreement too. Of course, I strongly agree that the United States should not give any concessions to the Islamic Republic in this regard, and I constantly talk about this too. I disagree with a discourse that portrays European, Western countries, and America as indebted to the Iranian people. It should be remembered that a lie was told here, which the people believed. While Mr. Azizi correctly identifies this lie, the prince didn't tell it directly. It was disseminated to the populace. This specific untruth also warrants remembrance. Although politics is not an arena for honesty, there was no need for such a blatant lie to be told, especially one that became evident so quickly, within a few months. I even think, according to what we occasionally actually see on your own TV programs, it seems like a strategy change has happened in the middle of all this. A part of it was predictable, as they say, that probably if they can, from within the government, actually extend this hand of cooperation with a group that's acceptable to them, maybe they'd want to do this. They used to say, Trump, they always said he's a businessman. But this idea seemed very far-fetched because actually, for the Islamic Republic, there's very, very little opportunity. That's also why I think we still, in the past few weeks, actually have no idea what we're dealing with. Will the Islamic Republic really, in these 60 days we have ahead, submit to Trump's demands? How much will be given to the Islamic Republic? And how much will be taken from it? I think everything the opposition, especially Prince Reza Pahlavi himself, must do really depends on these next 2 months. Actually, it determines where we actually take the initiative again, where the Islamic Republic's weakest stage is ahead of us. Because, as you say, we couldn't hit harder than this for now. Maybe we could have hit harder. I'm not a military expert. But even if we could have hit harder, how would it be with coordination and actually planning with our internal forces, whether it's within the system bodies?
Less than a minute remains. Mr. Azizi, please take your minute to respond. Ms. Kanani, Mr. Azizi.
What is the main difference between Ms. Kanani and me as two opponents of the Islamic Republic? The main difference is that I welcome a policy of peace. I'm happy that an agreement was reached. I'm happy that I know my relatives in Iran are unlikely to be killed, especially since relatives whose homes were even destroyed during this time. And that's because it's not like there's even a possibility that, for example, freedom will come from this. I'm saddened by the killing of the children of Minam and non-military citizens, and even many Iranian soldiers, army soldiers that Mr. Pahlavi's grandfather founded, but he didn't even offer a single condolence for them. I believe that the path to democracy in Iran becomes smooth when there is no war, when conditions for civil struggle exist. I believe there's no shortcut without organizing the people and popular forces, and we should welcome anything that reduces military tensions, anything that lessens military disputes. That agreement isn't bad news for the people of Iran. We must continue our struggles for democracy, the Islamic Republic.
Very well. Thank you. Thank you both, Farouk Kanani and Arash Azizi. And thank you for being a viewer of tonight's 24.